It's time once again to check out the darker corners of cinema. I'm talking about those films that you might have overlooked because their budgets couldn't have paid for the catering of those big budget blockbusters. Still, I'll take any of them over some overhyped star vehicle or sequel any old day. Let's start binging. Low Budget Binge is where we venture down the path less traveled and look at low budget, no budget, and sometimes international films that never get that top billing you see with the usual Hollywood fare. I'll indicate in the review down below where you can find these films along with their trailers. Here we go. House of Screaming Glass is new on demand and DVD from DeskPop Entertainment. It's directed by David R. Williams and written by David R. Williams, Costanza Bongiorni, and Tom Jolliffe. Elizabeth, played by Lonnie Call, inherits her grandmother's schoolhouse and moves into the large property, attempting to find out more about her past and cope with mental issues as well as a troubled relationship with her mother. Once in the abandoned building, Elizabeth's mind begins to fracture piece by piece as the ghosts of her past begin to overwhelm her in her solitude. First off, man, what a freaking awesome title. House of Screaming Glass. I absolutely love the title of this movie. It's compelling without really telling you anything and evokes some of the best giallo horror titles of the past. Even before knowing what this movie was about, I was intrigued simply by that awesome title. Now that we have that out of the way, House of Screaming Glass is an art house film through and through, featuring only one character wandering around a house and encountering strange memories, bizarre phenomena, and losing her freaking mind in the process. This means that this is a slow film that lingers on scenes for long periods of time, sometimes with some kind of weird payoff, and other times, not so much. If you're good with that, then House of Screaming Glass will be something you might want to look at. Personally, I found House of Screaming Glass to be tedious at times, fascinating at others. There are a few scenes where Elizabeth is doing something in the foreground and something is lurking towards her in the background that are elegantly done and filled with tension. Still, I found myself looking at my watch quite a few times as the story went on. There are pacing issues, and at times I feel things were communicated a few times too many. Especially one scene where Elizabeth continues to drink some kind of sacred liquor and pop pills over and over and over again. We get it. Elizabeth has a screw loose and is barely coping with it all. But House of the Screaming Glass is a movie the director wants you to experience along with the protagonist, so these long scenes are intentional. I did find House of Screaming Glass to be compelling because when things do happen, they're very creepy and suspenseful. Director David R. Williams provides enough development in these scenes, increasing the strange background happenings as it goes, as well as mapping out a convincing descent into madness. Lonnie Call is a strong actress, proving herself capable of taking up the entire screen and the entire story solely by herself. There's a surprising amount of pretty gnarly gore that occurs in House of Screaming Glass. I found myself nauseated by some of these scenes because it involves Elizabeth consuming some disgusting stuff and seemingly having no reaction to it. So while this is a film for the art house crowd, I feel those folks will be absolutely revolted by some of the grosser parts of House of Screaming Glass. So House of Screaming Glass is a strange one. Enter it at your own risk. In the end, I was moved by Elizabeth's plight. I feel the choice to basically open the film with the final moments is a mistake, as something should compel the viewer to keep watching, and spoiling the final moments in the first few minutes kind of takes the knees out of all of that. Still, if this film has anything going for it, House of Screaming Glass is one hell of a cool title for a movie. So there's that. The Girl in the Trunk is new on-demand and digital download from Sunrise Films. It's directed and written by Jonas, Kvist, Jensen. In the opening moments of The Girl in the Trunk, we witness a woman trying to drop off her rental car late after closing hours, only to find herself abducted by a man and put into, where else, the trunk of her car. Waking up later, the woman interacts with the man driving via her hacked phone, and the mystery begins as to who this man is, why he is abducting this woman, and what he is going to do with her. It's quite a task to make a movie set almost entirely in the trunk of a car, and while this film sort of accomplishes that task, with the lead, Manda, played by Katarina Sporer, spending the bulk of the time trapped within this enclosed space, and us as the audience in there with her, the experience didn't really work for me. Much of the film is made of long stretches of dialogue that I found to be rather tedious and repetitive. The plot goes from a simple premise to something surprisingly complex, overly complex at that. All of it adds up to being an overlong movie made from a small, short film concept. The performances are decent. Sporer was able to capture my interest and held it for a good long time. The man driving is also enigmatic and distant while seeming to know quite a lot about Manda and her current situation. There are a few well-made scenes with Manda attempting an escape and failing a few times that actually work. All in all, there's a lot to like about Girl in the Trunk, but I still feel the concept is stretched way too far, and the over-the-top ending really doesn't match the tension-laden and small-stakes tone of the film that was going on all the way through. The Girl in the Trunk is a noble effort by director-writer Jonas Kvist Jensen, but it just isn't able to make it as a full-length feature. This one delivered a lot of padding via dialogue, extended sequences of suspense, vague passages of time via unconsciousness, and long silences in order to make the runtime, and all of that was just too much filler to maintain my interest. Cold Meat is available on demand and digital download from Level 33 Entertainment. It's directed by Sébastien Drouin and written by Sébastien Drouin, Andrew Desmond, and James Kermack. David, played by Downton Abbey's Alan Leach, encounters waitress Anna, played by Nina Bergman, one lonely and cold night at a truck stop. When David stands up to Anna's abusive boyfriend, Vincent, played by Jan Toile, Anna is appreciative. Cut forward a few hours later as David drives down the snowy highway, and we find he's being pursued by Vincent, resulting in a car crash where David runs his car into a snowbank. Thus begins an arduous story of survival against the elements and possibly the legendary Wendigo itself. Cold Meat is a surprisingly good film as it keeps much of its secrets close to its vest, right up until it almost hurts not to know them. The way the three of these players interact takes many forms throughout the story. Predator, prey, savior, survivor. David, Anya, and Vincent play all of these roles by the end of the story. Like another film I recently reviewed, The Girl in the Trunk, Cold Meat is a film that basically takes place in one single location, a car, for the entirety of the film. But unlike Girl in the Trunk, Cold Meat was able to maintain my investment all the way through, packing every minute with tense interactions, crisp dialogue, and heightened suspense. The acting is top tier. Both Alan Leach and Nina Bergman are fantastic actors, and seeing them riff off of one another is the highlight of the movie as they both become trapped in this car with no help in sight. The solitude, claustrophobia, and pressures wear on the two, trapped within the vehicle, as the temperature drops and the hopes for rescue diminish, pitting both man versus woman, but also both versus the elements. Seeing these two agree and disagree and work together is a wonderful roller coaster ride. On top of all this, there's a supernatural element to Wendigo that lingers in the air that seems to be drawn to those facing sheer desperation in the cold weather. Cold Meat ends up just shy of being a creature feature, as the legend of the Wendigo feels more of a metaphorical threat. All of it comes together rather simply and beautifully by the end, making Cold Meat a great example of how to make a one-location film right, filling it with knuckle-whitening tension, amazing wordplay between the characters, and an ever-present lingering danger inside and outside of the car. I highly recommend this lo-fi but high-stakes thriller. EXHUMA, aka PAMYO, is new streaming on Shudder. It's directed and written by Jang Jae-hyun. Get ready for me to start massacring some South Korean names. A mortician, a geomancer, a shaman, and her protege team up to investigate the mysterious grave of a long-dead South Korean nobleman. But the deeper they dig, the more horrific secrets they uncover as they unleash an evil more powerful than any of them have encountered before. EXHUMA received an excessive amount of awards and accolades when released in its home country of South Korea. Anyone paying attention to South Korean cinema knows that the country regularly delivers some of the most potent international horror you're bound to see each and every year. Films like I Saw the Devil, The Medium, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, The Wailing, A Tale of Two Sisters, Train to Busan, Bedeviled, Project Wolf Hunting, Memories of Murder, and The Host are but a few of a long list of horror films that if you haven't seen them, you definitely should if you want to call yourself a horror fan. So of course I had to check this new EXHUMA film out. And while I do feel the subject matter has been covered better in other films, mainly The Medium, EXHUMA proves to be a phenomenal movie. EXHUMA is steeped in South Korean spiritualism. The filmmakers made sure the numerous rituals we see played out in this expansive epic were as accurate as possible, so much that the lead actress, Kim Go-eun, who plays the mystic Hwarim, feared that she could be cursed by simply acting them out on camera. If you take anything away from EXHUMA, you'll experience the significant role religion and spiritualism act in the life of South Koreans and the many intricate rituals performed, especially involving the handling of the dead. The film centers around the excavation, removal, and transport of coffins from one area to another for various reasons. And while the rituals accompanying this process may seem strange to foreigners, EXHUMA shows it all with an unblinking eye and a ton of respect, making this a fascinating glimpse into South Korean culture. On top of that, EXHUMA is filled with an interesting team of mystics involved in the process, all of them top-tier actors depicting different integral roles in the exhumation process. The team is brought together not unlike the Ghostbusters, where each of the members of the team bring a unique personality as well as a special skill set to the table. The way these four interact and are connected to one another is the heart and soul of EXHUMA. The bond between the two shaman, Hwarim and Bong-gi, played by Lee Do-hyun, is painfully stretched as the mystery of the grave deepens. The soulful understanding of the properties of the grave is measured by the ever-charismatic Choi Min-sik, who has offered up iconic performances before in Old Boy and I Saw the Devil. And for comic relief, we have the often goofy but still integral mortician Ko Yoon-gun, played by Yoo Hae-jin, bringing his scientific know-how to the problem. Seeing all of these actors work together, going through periods where they distrust each other and bump into one another until they eventually come together, makes for a classic team-building action-adventure tale. There are horrors galore to view in EXHUMA as well. Not only are the rituals quite terrifying in their own right, involving animal sacrifice, which they don't show on camera, thankfully, song, dance, percussion, chanting, and all sorts of ritualistic behavior. Not only does it feel like you're being enriched by watching this spectacle, but it also is filmed to be quite shocking. But there's also references to both South Korean and Japanese folklore involving foxes, giant man monsters, snakes with human faces, and all sorts of evil spirits. Each special effects sequence manages to top the last as the mystery deepens, all of them dazzling and suspenseful to see play out. If there's an issue I had with EXHUMA, it isn't the fault of the movie, I don't think. I feel I don't know enough about the tenuous relationship between South Korea and Japan. The film definitely shows that there is some resentment between the two cultures that go back a long way, but my own lack of knowledge of the subject matter made me feel as if I was missing something. EXHUMA is also steeped in lore and tradition, so much that I feel it loses its way in the midway point of this 2-hour epic. So many rituals are shown in this one that I felt as if I were being overloaded with them. Finally, the mystery of just what is the secret buried in this excavated grave feels addressed by the end, but the spectacle of the ritual and dazzle of the special effects drowned the actual answers out for me. All of these issues I had with EXHUMA, though, involves the fact that I don't know as much as I should about South Korean culture. While I feel that some of the hefty themes flew over my head due to the language and cultural barriers, I still feel EXHUMA is yet another strong horror film from South Korea. I think because religion and ritual is something that has been sort of lost in American culture, the ritualistic sequences might be received as less powerful as they most likely were when witnessed by South Korean audiences. But nevertheless, I can recognize good character, solid special effects, and a powerful representation of a culture when I see it. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed.
stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. God live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside